Hello everybody, Elijah here, welcome you all to another Epic 7 video, and today we will be reviewing my account. I'll be going over all my units and gear and all of that good stuff. So if you would need any, I guess, build recommendations, ideas, all of that good stuff, feel free to stay tuned and watch. I'll have timestamps for everything. And I did finish champion, pretty high champion, I would say. So myself, I don't really like our new... I'm not really a fan of that. What did I have before? We're gonna keep it. We'll do like this. We'll do that for now. But yeah, we're going to be going over my heroes and seeing how their gear is. And to start things off, we have Edward Elric, who I didn't really use that much because I was typically the person drafting with the debuffs, right? Like I was the one who had all the debuffs. Like people would use him against me, so I didn't really use him too much myself. But yeah, this is his gear. Then we have Jacko. I was all about the Jacko cleave towards the beginning of the season. Like I think it's a very fun unit to use. I think the Jacko cleave is really fun if you can pull it off. But I do not own Zio, which means I can't pull it off that well. And because I've gotten so many copies of Jacko's artifact, I do have her on her own artifact. But if I had like Merciless Glutton or like, I don't know what else I would use. Maybe even Symbol of Unity would be nice into like some of those like cheeky evasion units. Then we have Adventure Ross, who I did not draft at all this season. Like, I didn't even draft him. Yeah, I did not draft this unit at all. So there's so many other knights that are just better at him at the current state of the game. And because of that, he doesn't really get picked at all. He's not really somebody that could be used. And then he also can be cleaved very easily. So unless you're building like a very fast Adventurer Ross, like you really can't use him into the bracket. Obviously in the lower ranks you can, but once you start going up against like Emperor players and things like that, you just can't really rely on him as a knight. You have to use your more, and some other knights that I guess we'll get into later. We have Winter. Her gear has gotten nerfed throughout the season because I relied on her less and less. I used to have her at a very high effectiveness build to deal with Destina, but I haven't really seen too many Destinas. I can just draft Valorous Iseria also into Destina, so I don't really have to worry too much about her. But this is her gear and the artifact that she is on. This is my Kayron. He's who I use to deal with cleavers, especially single target cleaves. If you see somebody draft Green Cidd, this is like a perfect pick into that just because Green Cidd is going to die trying to fight him, and I just now realized I have yet to enhance these boots. Even though, I don't know, are they really worth enhancing? I guess for the, well, not really, because I don't really need any more crit chance. I'm already capped out. But yeah, that is my LRK. Then we have a Beehoo, who is like a pseudo opener, right? Obviously, he's not going to take the first turn, but into a slower match, he will a lot of the times. And I have him geared. I geared him to deal with ML Landy, like to use burns as a way to kill her. But that wouldn't really work too effectively because, like, you know, he does have very low bulk. So that being said, if he does get counterattacked like twice, he's kind of like dead. So it's kind of hard to use into that situation. But I have been using him as a Blair Witch Iseria counter when I'm drafting more aggressively. You know, him applying Unbuffable to everybody, especially getting Blair Witch Iseria out of Guiding Light, kind of makes it so it's easier to kill her. And that's kind of what I've been using him for as of recent. We have Summertime Iseria. I use her never. She isn't really geared to be used. I don't cleave ever, to be completely honest. I do like playing like very high debuffers control compositions, but I typically build my teams around Solitaria when I'm doing something like that, and not a unit like Summertime Iseria. And we have my Mercedes, whose gear has also gotten nerfed throughout the season, or maybe like 2 seasons ago, to be completely honest. But I don't really use her. She's kind of hard to use. Too many ice units that are really, really good. So you can't really use Mercedes too much the higher you go up in the bracket or the ladder. We have my Milim. I have her built somewhat speedy for the most part, just so that she can snipe out a squishy Landy if there is one that's drafted into me. That's really all that I use her for. I have used her into Aria, which you would think shouldn't work, but Milim has worked in the sense that she just clears up all of the stealths and making it easier to just ignore the Aria and not focus her. Politis, she kind of has whatever, you know? Her presence is enough to be relevant, so I don't have to worry about too much about gearing her that well. Like, she will work in the right situations, right with her passive. Considering building a Degen Politis again, since I don't use her as much, but I do like to have Politis on Tonga Hell, so I don't really know. Maybe I'll build a tanky Politis that is on Tonga Hell just to have the slow burn, because I think it's really nice. So yeah. Then we have Carrot, who I'm pretty sure some of my nicer, higher attack gear has been given to other units. Therefore, my Carrot kind of has like the lower end of it. But then again, I'm just not using Carrot. Like, again, too many ice units that are really, really good. So it's really, really hard to draft her. Speaking of ice units that are really, really good, here we have my Choux, who has only like 80% crit, but it doesn't really matter because Choux is just going to go ham regardless, right? And also, some of her good gear pieces is actually on my Brieg at the current moment because I was testing him out. But yeah, that's my Choux. I mean, if she was triple S, she would be more closer to 100% crit. So there's that. Oh, and then I have her on the EE for the... I mean, everybody has her on this EE, right? This is the only one that makes sense to put her on. So, yeah. Oh, grant immunity to all allies. I didn't even know that was one of her EEs. That might be really good in some situations. Alrighty, then we have Lethe. Lethe I don't really use too much. I would use her more if she had all the same stats except for 123 effect resistance instead of 123 effectiveness. Because if she gets controlled, she kind of doesn't do anything, like at all. But I just don't have enough effect resistance gear to pass around for her, right? That also has pretty high HP rolls on it as well. So this is what we're rocking with. Rim, I've used her probably like twice into Jacko Cleaves. And the 2 times that I did use her, one time she did work and counterattack them to death, and the other time she didn't counter at all and she just died. So very coin flip champion, and if she doesn't counterattack, she is very well useless. Like, she doesn't really do much. KARINA. KARINA is definitely an MVP, right? Like, she's been used a lot. I think her effect resistance should be a lot higher, but very good unit. Like, she is a very good unit to use in RTA. She counters so many things. She disencourages so much. Like, a lot of people were underestimating her when she was first released, but all it took was him, like, you know, getting used to or adapting to like how her playstyle would be. Like, some people were saying she needed a buff when she was first released. It was actually kind of crazy, and now she's probably like one of the most prevalent units in RTA currently. So that's crazy, more so than all her other units that were in her collab. Here's my Brieg. He's more so used for PvE, but there are no buts. I don't plan on using him really too much in RTA. He's very hard to draft in RTA, so... And we have my Peira, who is slow, right? She's only 290 speed, but whenever I draft her, people don't know that, and people still, you know, get scared and they don't speed contest me, right? And that's kind of the whole thing, why you should have your openers, even if they're not build fast, have them build anyway because of the fact that people don't know that they aren't fast. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. If you're in champion or if you're trying to pull to masters, literally just bluff your speed 24/7. It works like all the time. As you're gonna see, my Ran here also not fast at all, but people don't know that, and I will draft him and he will get banned as if he was fast. I just do this all the time. Now, if I were to give him my fastest gear, he would be like 305, 307, I think, speed I could get him at, and he still have like decent like crit damage, crit rate, stuff like that. But my speed gear, my fastest speed gear is being split across like 7 different units. So yeah. And I typically don't draft Cleave, so I don't really need to use him. I typically use him in Guild Wars, and that's about it. When I'm going to take the first turn. We have Lua. Lua is somebody that I used. My bread and butter. I just first pick her all the time if I can. She has some of my more faster speed pieces. And her gear is kind of all over the place. I pretty much prioritize speed, and that was it. And yeah, gear is very much all over the place. I remember I made a video in the past trying to get a better gear pieces or speed pieces for her, and I didn't get anything, so, you know, rolling speed in this game is very hard to do. Then we have my Seaside Bellona, who I didn't use at all. Oh. Excuse me. She is on Lifesteal Immunity. I did use her once, because she now has her new EE where she cleanses. Right, she gets to dispel 1 buff, which is nice, but it wasn't really enough, right? I think she needs to be on injury or something to really work well. Or maybe like have her on like Bloodstone. Something different. Something has to change though if I'm gonna actually use her. Mid, she is somebody who I re-geared towards the end of the season after I started playing a lot more aggro. But this is her gear. She is a lot on the slower end. I think most people have their mids. Like the higher the ladder, you're gonna see a lot of like 305, 300 speed mids. But they are gonna have very low effect resistance. So I kind of wanted to prioritize more on the effect resistance and speed, and have her as like a pseudo opener, somebody to go after one of my main openers. We have Arunka. She is somebody who I got from my selector. She is a newly geared unit for me. I'm thinking about farming an attack set for her because I just don't think she has high enough attack to be relevant. Sadly, 6k attack just isn't enough. So I might have to put her on an attack set at some point in time. We have my Rimuru, who has whatever, right? His gear is not something to copy at all. His build, please do not copy this build. I kind of threw him on whatever pieces. I use him as a counter pick in certain situations. He is on Guys to a Decision because as like a Lua cheese, right? He's on immunity. Plus this immunity, Lua can't strip the immunity for him, so he can't be a turn reset, right? That's kind of how he's used, but he's too slow to cut in front for the most part, so he's kind of, it doesn't really work out too well. Then we have my Zahhak. He's just an Aiden quick killer, right? I last pick him a lot of the times to deal with Aiden. His gear is also very much whatever. Very easy unit to gear. You don't really have to worry about too much. And he's on Symbol of Unity to increase his hit chance. And he's on the EE to give the increased attack up. However, I might change this to the resource reduction. Only because I used to have him paired with Strays all the time, but my Strays is on the Benimaru artifact, so I don't really need the attack up anymore. So I might change him to the resource reduction. Here is my Senya. She is on a effect resistance build because I think that's just a lot better. I use her to deal with a cleave, just as an anti-cleave unit. And that's really about it for Senya. And her EE is the Recovers Health, because I want to sustain through most anti-cleave situations or cleave drafts, right? Those units are relatively squishy, so I don't necessarily have to worry about her, you know, I don't have to worry about her needing the greater attack and things like that. I just need her to stay alive, so that's why she is on the health healing one. Yulha, somebody who I built towards the end of the season, she's on Protector set, because why not? I just had the Protector set gear, so I just threw it on her to build her like that. I wish her effect resistance was a little bit higher, like at 100 effect resistance, that would be perfect. And her speed was like 180, 190. But then again, she has a little CR push. She has like no molas other than her S1, because I think that's probably the most important thing. Everything else, you can kind of do without for the most part. Here's my Cidd, who his gear did get nerfed a lot, actually. It used to be a 240 higher damage Cidd, but I don't really draft Cidd at all. If I'm using, sometimes I do like to bluff cleave and use speed imprints, but again, if they contest my speed, they're probably gonna win, and so I don't really draft like that. At least not anymore. I used to. In the beginning of the season, I typically do. In the beginning of the season, I always tend to cleave just to climb super fast, get to champion as fast as possible, and then I start playing a little serious once I'm in the higher ends of champion and I start matching up against Emperor players. Then we have a Violet here, who I did use a few times in the bracket. I've had some highlight videos of me using him. He's a fun unit when he works, you know? And he invades. It's kind of funny seeing him solo teams. But that is my Violet. Then we have Landy, who I don't use at all. I think she's kind of hard to use. Too much AoE and Guiding Light, or I should say Griefing Light, when it comes to using her. Makes it hard to use, but yeah, this is my Landy's gear. Considering making a speed Landy, but then again, I don't have enough speed gear, to be completely honest. There are a few pieces I see I could easily replace, but we'll have to see. Destina, don't really use her that often because I don't really draft in where I would need to use her, but she has really high defense. I'll give her that. And if she had 20k HP, I would be happy, but again, don't have the gear. Ooh, I keep yawning. Oh my gosh. But yes, here is Destina. Roana, somebody who you kind of just put on whatever, and she will be relevant because it's Roana, right? She did work out or help me a lot into dealing with Navy Captain Landy as a counter into her. I have her on some effect resistance just to not get debuffed by like units that don't have effect resistance, you know? Or effectiveness, I should say. Then we have my Sharun. I used her a decent amount. I changed her gear. She was on a very high effectiveness build, and then I changed her to have some effect resistance as well, just so she can deal with the no effectiveness debuffers, right? Like, I was in situations where she was getting stunned by Specter Tenebrias, and I was like, yikes, don't need that, so changed her gear to have a little effect resistance. We have my Conqueror Lillias, who I don't really draft unless it's when I know I'm going to have the first turn. There's so many counters to Conqueror Lillias. Also, mine has 42% crit for some reason. Her gear is all over the place. Her gear is literally all over the place. I think she has one of my fastest rings, or almost fastest rings. 22 speed, but yeah. She is kind of whatever gear because I don't use her too often. Purrge. He is geared to trap Zeos, right? Somebody's trying to draft Zeo into me, and I can do like an Aiden, Purrge plus a bunch of stealth units. That is kind of why I would use him. And he's on counter set just to provoke. Just for the chance to counter provoke, right? If he counterattacks, provokes the Zeo, then Zeo gets provoke locked into the Purrge. or any of the other cleave units that end up hitting general Purrgis. So yeah, Lionheart Cermia, definitely an MVP, right? All the counter units that they have in this game, all the extra attacking units, she just serves, right? She's a really, really great unit at the current state of the meta. One imprint away for having 100% crit. She is on Draco's plate. I know, like, the Abigail artifact that I have on my Ed is probably better, but this is just what I'm comfortable with. This is the build that I have her on. She has a ton of defense, but yeah. Ambitious Tywin. He's on a pseudo damage build, like obviously not high damage, but a little bit of damage. And yeah, I typically use him into Ball and Sazan or heavy debuffers if like Ed, if I'm in a situation where I'm drafting Ed and Ed's still gonna like get controlled because there's just so many debuffs, I will also pick him and like pair him with the two so that they don't pick the Ambitious Tywin into the Ed, so I don't have to deal with that at all. But yeah, this is his build, this is what I use. Last, Rider Krau, probably another one of my more, I guess, most drafted units, right? Very fun unit, really love this unit. Wish he was on immunity set, but it is what it is. I have him on HP set just for that little boost of HP. Yeah, I can make that higher effect resistance, potentially. Unbound Knight Arowell. Now, I don't draft super slow, therefore I don't draft this unit. I typically draft aggro that's for institution into a standard or more like slower draft. I just don't play tank down that often, therefore I don't really use this unit often, but she is still an amazing knight that everybody should just have gear just in case. Savior Aiden, who I use less and less throughout the season. She was kind of like my crutch unit. I picked her when I didn't know what else to pick, and I just hope to RNG win the match, and sometimes I do win it, sometimes I lose it. She's on a speedier build to follow up, so if I'm playing more aggressively, or if they're trying to cleave me, she does have enough speed that she can kind of cut in front and take the next turn after an opener, right? After her CR boost, when she invades and stuff like that. Commander Pavel, I just don't have enough units to pair with him, which is why I don't use him. And even so, he's still kind of hard to use. I think if they had like a higher damage dealing unit that crits 2 times, like crits and then takes an extra turn and crits again, I think that would be nice. Because currently, I don't think he's kind of hard to set up in most situations. Speaking of setup, I do have Faithless Lidica geared. I use her to control units. I don't really draft her as a cleave unit. I use her for more control teams. But yeah, this is her gear. It's kind of whatever gear. Not the best, but it does do her job, right? I use her for the turn set and stuff like that. Washer Shuri, somebody who I don't really draft like at all, because again, I'm not cleaving ever. Typically a Guild War unit, but this is his gear. He is built just in case if I need to use him. He's on attack percent boots as well. AOL, probably my #1 most hated unit alongside Conqueror Lillias. I hate playing against those two units. But yeah, AOL is so frustrating to deal with, but I do have her built. But I did ban her for a majority of the beginning of the season because I just didn't want to see her at all. And then Navy Captain Landy came out and I had to start banning her, so sucks to suck. Then we have my Sage, Ball, and Sasan. He is geared to deal with cleavers, however, he does not have enough effect resistance to deal with high effectiveness units. Even with Bastion, he can still get debuffed a lot of the times. It really does suck to see him get debuffed, but it is what it is. He's geared to the best of my ability. High effectiveness Zeos I can't deal with. It's just not enough effectiveness or effect resistance. Solitaria, one of my more favorite units. I used her a lot. Again, another crutch unit for me. I use her for the stuns. I have had RTA matches and just getting a whole bunch of stuns and winning just because of that, so very fun unit. Love control comps, but yeah. Sylvan Sage Vivian, she was my selector for the Moonlight Blessing number 2. Fun unit to use. I don't think she's tanky enough, but I do like how she has exactly 300 crit damage, so she doesn't overcap when she grits herself the increased crit damage buff, and because of that, I'm going to keep her gear as is, because it's very fun to use. And I think that she is a pretty okay unit, right? Even though there are a bunch of units that counter her, KARINA, Lethe, Senya, there's just a bunch of units that don't have the crit. Last Rider Krau that does counter her though, unfortunately. DJB, fun unit. I use him occasionally, but not too often. Sometimes I use him. I did used to do that draft where you draft an opener and then him to deal with the Zeo, because most people are going to counter your opener with Zeo. But yeah, did use him a little bit. Made Chloe. I drafted once this season, and that's typically when I'm drafting a high ER control team with Archdemon Mercedes. I'll always draft Made Chloe, but that's kind of like a for fun draft. I don't draft that draft too often because it is a slow, slow burn kind of team, and it is very boring to play that style where you're drafting a bunch of tanky high ER units and then you just like slowly whittle them down with like an Archdemon or an Aria or a Solitaria, something along those lines. Apocalypse Ravi, I don't use her that often. She serves as an anchor for me in aggressive play, or just a way to deal with Last Rider Krau as a counter pick. But yeah, I do want to move her on a destruction set. I did get this really nice piece for destruction being, what was it? It was from the here, right? 31% attack, or 31% HP, 21 crit damage. Pretty nice how that rolled. Definitely going to try to use that piece for her and kind of build around that piece and put her on destruction set at some point. Then we have Assassin Cartuja. Now he's one of those units who his purpose is to do like his passive, right? To give evasion to all allies, And I also have on a protector set just so that he has some way to give some kind of mitigation to the team. But his gear is definitely whatever gear, right? Then I also have him on that artifact for the damage reduction. And we're back. I had a little computer issue there, but we have designer Lilibet. Now, I love her build. I know she probably should be faster, like 240 speed or whatever, but I think this is fine. She still cuts in front in most teams. I just like how it looks. Like I don't know why these numbers just like look so well. I wish I was like 250 instead of 251 and it should be like perfect in my eyes. But yeah, this is the build, this is the gear that she has on. Then we have Infernal Kawazu. I've been using him a lot more. His gear could be a lot better. To be completely honest, the gear that my Arunka has honestly should go to him. Like they should do like a little switch, a little flip-flop, because he could probably use my Arunka's gear a lot better. But yeah, this is the build that he has. I might change him out to being more tankier, like give him like an HP ring or something, because he does the damage, and with his buff coming up, he should definitely have no issues one-shotting who he needs to one-shot. Then we have Mediator Calric. His gear has been the same since, I don't even know. It's been forever. I have not changed his gear really ever. I think I got him a new necklace, that's about it. But yeah, he's on some effectiveness just to essentially guarantee strip his S2 on some units. There was a point in time where people didn't build Arya with enough effect resistance, or really any effect resistance, and I would always use him to essentially strip Arya's, counter buff and stuff like that. But now people definitely build way more effect resistance on their Aryas, so that they can resist literally everything, and they also put him on Bastion of Hope. So yeah. Then we have my Strays. He is a little slow. Most people will have, I don't even know, I don't have the gear to make like a 260 speed Strays that's also like, you know, 4K attack and all that other kind of stuff. I just do not have the gear to do that. I mean, I didn't even have really the gear to give him 4K attack while also having, you know, high crit damage. So I kind of like opt for the attack over the crit damage for the sake of it gear-wise and stuff like that. But yeah, he definitely could be a lot better, but it is what it is. I used to pair him a lot with Zahhak, and I used to have like a 290 speed Zahhak, and it didn't really matter that my Strays was kind of slow, but it is what it is. It still works, like, into teams where I know I'm going to get the first turn. Then we have FCC. I don't use her anymore. I use her, I guess, in anti-cleave situations, but that's about it. Other than that, I don't really use her. She's just there to be tanky at night. I remember seeing somebody being like, oh, they should buff FCC. No, I don't really think it would be worth buffing her. I don't think there's anything they could do unless they made it so that like after every turn, the barrier goes to all allies, you know? That would be kind of insane, but yeah, that's the only quote-unquote buff I could see happening. Or maybe giving her like a cleanse or something stupid. I don't know. I don't really think she needs a buff. I feel like it's just a matter of it's not really her time to shine anymore. She already had it for quite a couple of seasons. Here's my RB. I don't use him ever. I think I used him like once and he did really, really well. But other than that, there's too many units that have Extinction, and then Blair Witch Iseria exists. So, and then there's so many units that also have Skill Nullifier. So it's kind of like, even if they kill him, he comes back, and then he can't do anything. Or they have like an extra turn mechanic, like, say, Jacko, right? She can S3, kill him, and then kill him again with S1, so... I might change this build to a degen build maybe at one day, but this is what I have on for now. I don't have any other unit that could use this gear for the most part, hence why I don't have any desire into changing his build or doing any of that, because I just have nowhere else to put this gear. We have my Closer Charles. He used to be a lot faster, but I slowed him down to give his higher speed pieces to other units. But yeah, he's kind of just there to be an attack up for the team. If I do use him, he essentially just sets up for something. Whether that be like a Commander Pavel cleave or whatever. It's like he's there to set up. I tried to use him like pairing with Arunka into like a Last Rider Krau where like I use him to set off the Last Rider Krau's barrier for all the entire team, and then like have Arunka, you know, start one-shotting people. But people typically end up banning either the Closer Charles or their Arunka, and it just doesn't end up working out. But yeah, then we have Remnant Violet. He is, well, he is what he is, right? Premium RNG unit right here. He will grief you or he will win you games. It's kind of very much that's how it just goes. Very coin flip. And yeah, he's fun to use when he works. When he works, he's fun to use. Even when he doesn't work, it's funny. Like, you have to laugh, right? You see your Remnant Violet get one shot because he fails to invade. It's funny. Like, it's something to laugh at. Oh, we skipped one. We have Briar Witch Iseria here. She is definitely an MVP. I said this in the last account review video. I'm remembering this. I said how she was an MVP back then when she got her buff, and she still is an MVP today. Like, she is such a well-rounded and amazing unit. I don't know if she's ever going to come on banner anytime soon, but if you do not own this unit, get this unit. And you don't even need Guiding Light. I mean, Guiding Light is kind of like really, really good on her, but like you can use other things like this artifact as well as Symbol of Unity, or you can even build her with effect resistance so that she doesn't get debuffed. Because I think that her biggest counter is debuffs, like unbuffable, because that completely ruins her chance of immortality and stuff like that. But yeah, amazing unit. I love to use her. She's so much fun. We have Archdemon Shadow. I didn't use as much. I used her once. There's like one video on my account of me using her, and she got a seal off and then died. That was her whole. That's all she did. But this is her gear. I don't really know how to build Archdemon Shadow, how she should be built. This is actually really, really squishy. I have learned, right? She gets killed very easily. Aiden kind of one-shots her, right? I think she needs to be faster, to be completely honest. I think that's what I need. I need more speed, but I don't know. She's a very, like, if you're gonna use her, you need to have, like, 3 other units to protect her in order to keep her alive. So, yeah. Then we have my Specter Tenebria, who is also another major MVP for me. I have her on Unity set, and I cannot tell you the amount of times that Unity set has won me games, like single-handedly have won me games, because I have that extra 8% chance to trigger a dual attack. It is actually insane. It tilts people so much when I get like back-to-back dual attacks. It's so crazy. I love it. I love to see it. It's so much fun. I love using her. She is a staple DPS, another amazing unit. If you haven't selected your Moonlight Blessing from the first Moonlight Blessing, then you definitely should be selecting Specter Tenebria. 1000%. She is such an amazing unit. Then we have Death Dealer Ray. He is kind of like my for fun pick. If I can use him, there's so many units that can generate immunity, as well as, you know, you have Ed, there's cleansers to have to deal with, AOL, but this is what he has, his gear, his stats. I might switch him to, what is it? I might switch him to the One Soul Weaver artifact, if I could find it. Like, where is it? I think it's Celestine. I might switch him to that. I don't know. I may have looked over it, but I think I'm going to switch him to Celestine at one point because he is on counter set. But I do like Water's Origin just for the sustain. It's a self-sustain for him a little bit. But then again, I guess Celestine would also do that while also doing it for the entire team, you know? So I might have to switch that out at one point. But yeah, that's all of my units, my currently built units, the units I use in RTA. There are some honorable mentions I will say that I had built towards the beginning of the season or when they were released, and then I ungeared them. For example, Ocean Breeze Luluka, I did use her a decent amount, but I just couldn't get her to work. Like, I know a lot of people love this unit and it's like their bread and butter, but I always have a hard time drafting her, so it didn't work out for me. And then Bellion was geared at one point, but I just banned her every single game, so she is no longer geared for the most part. Chaos Sec Axe, he actually made an appearance one time and a couple videos for fun. It was pretty entertaining, but yeah, he was on like a triple set HP, pin, and crit. And I think that's everybody that I've had geared throughout the season. But yeah, that's going to be my account review video. If you did enjoy, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace out.